Hey everyone, welcome to episode 18 of Qore, presented by the PlayStation Network. I'm Veronica Belmont, and we're here in Vancouver, British Columbia for our lead feature. United Front Games is taking a cue from customization games like Little Big Planet and invite you to play, create, and share with their new title, ModNation Racers.
Next, join Audrey Cleo as she gains rare access to the hallowed halls of Industrial Light and Magic to take a look at how they create the amazing visuals in your favorite blockbuster movies. Then join us as we get our hands dirty with the highly anticipated sequel, Assassin's Creed 2. You won't want to miss our extensive walkthrough of the sneaky new tactics and colorful characters in the deadly Italian cousin of the hit, Assassin's Creed. And Audrey Cleo also brings you the latest must-have Blu-ray releases, including, of course, the extras-loaded Star Trek disc. No quarters required in the oh-so-retro Qore arcade. You want 'em, we got 'em.
All that and more in episode 18 of Qore. I'll see you on the inside.
As Vancouver prepares for the upcoming Winter Olympic Games, the dev team at United Front Games has been preparing their own family-friendly Contest of Champions. With their debut game, ModNation Racers, they're hoping that by focusing on the fun of kart racing and easy but deep customization, they just might win some glory for themselves.
We're here with Dan Soshin, who's a producer here at United Front Games, and you guys are, of course, working on ModNation Racers. Would you say you took a cue from Little Big Planet, or are you going in a different direction?
From the very beginning, what we want to do is create a game that was going to push the karting genre and really allow the player to fully express themselves and customize their characters, their karts, and their tracks. So there's definitely some similarities there with what Media Molecule's done. Right from the beginning, we developed all of our tools with the idea that anyone should be able to do it, and it should be a fun experience. You can take your characters, and they start out with a sort of blank canvas, and you can make your character look however you want. You can make them look like yourself, or you can make them look like a monster or like a piece of artwork. Then you can do the same thing with the karts and build them right up from the chassis and go with realistic looking muscle cars or race cars, or make something a little bit more wacky, an ice cream truck or a block of cheese. And then you can do the same thing with your tracks.
There's tons of props that you can plop down on your track to make it pretty, but we think it's the weapons that make kart racing endless fun. It's your track, add as many weapons as you want.
Once you've built your character, your kart, your track, you can upload it for free on the PlayStation Network. Anyone else can download it. And a new twist that we put in is anyone can also then go in and they can remix your track, your characters, your karts, and republish them. And you'll always get credit as the original creator, but then I would get credit as having remixed it. So you see that often in music as well.
Is it predominantly a multiplayer game, something that you can play with your friends, or is there also a single-player mode?
There's both. There's 12-player online, as well as there'll be some multiplayer split screen that we're going to be talking a little bit more in the months to come. And we've got a fantastic single-player mode that we've had professional Hollywood writers create a really great story that helps progress the gameplay as well as a few laughs along the way.
Okay, so you might be tempted to call ModNation Racers cute, but look closely and you'll see there's a little edge to their characters that we think gives them even more personality.
This is Rob, and he's the art director on ModNation Racers. So what would you say the artistic style of the game is? It's definitely very unique.
I'd say it's heavily influenced by vinyl toys. Some people call them urban vinyl. The thing that I really like about them is that on one hand, they're very accessible and they're really pleasing to look at, but they always do something kind of edgy and sometimes evil or sometimes kind of creepy. But we decided very early on in our game that even though things are very stylized, that all the materials should look like the real thing. And so we thought that was a really good fit, so just to continue that kind of vibe throughout the game.
Well, I heard a little rumor that you guys made a character based on me. I was just wondering how long it takes to start from scratch and build something like that.
Well, it's actually quite quick. It takes up to about like 10 minutes to half an hour to build, a really good likeness. But like I said before, you can take as little as 5 minutes, or like me, I spend hours just polishing and polishing until I get it just perfect. So it's we try and get you there as fast as possible.
Can we see how it works?
Sure, let's give it a go. So we'll start from scratch here, changing the skin color to whatever you want, or you can go back and like choose some patterns.
Monkey suit.
Monkey suit. Any of these, you're free to to say go in and change the colors on these. Every one has a bunch of channels. So we like to give you as much control as possible. Again, you don't always have to use it, but it's there if you want to. Now let's get some facial features on this guy. We just can move everything around, scale it.
I love how they're animated already, so you really start getting a sense of what the little character is going to look like before you're even finished.
Yeah, that's a good point. We were just really trying to get as much personality in these guys as possible.
With all the options, you're sure to come up with a unique character to impress your friends. You'll probably spend more time than you think trying on different looks for your characters. The dev team has added tons of options and surprisingly robust tools for tweaking your little mod racer.
I would really love to see the one that you guys were working on that looks like me.
Yes, let's give it a go. I didn't make it myself, so hopefully it does. I hope it does you justice. There we go.
But the fun didn't stop there. The team at United Front Games also made us a Qore-themed cart for us to tear up the track with. In just a few minutes, they assembled a whip we certainly think is worth bearing the Qore logo. So now that you've seen Mod Nation Racers, you probably can't wait to dive right in and make your own insane racetrack masterpiece. But even though the game looks polished now, remember it's still early, so you'll just have to hang in there until 2010. In the meantime, be sure to check out our step-by-step walkthrough of just how easy it's going to be to make something awesome quickly, and share it with your buddies on the PlayStation Network. The Mod Nation Racers team was kind enough to let us play with the Track Studio feature of the game, and trust us, not only is it fun, but also easy. Even though it doesn't release until next year, we wanted to show you just how easy it will be to build your very own racetrack masterpiece. The important thing to note is that you'll be able to do these steps in any order, and make any changes you want along the way. So the first thing we're going to design is some terrain. There are lots of shape options to create different terrain features. Basically, the longer you hold the buttons, the bigger the change. Just like that, you've created mesas in the desert. To start creating the racetrack, just pop down a starting gate and then drive where you want it to go. The track fills in right behind you. If you drive over the track, an overpass is automatically created. If you get in a pickle, you can just make the track auto-complete the track loop. There you go, our basic racetrack is fully functional with the AI in there racing away. You could stop here, but who wants to stop now with so many toys to play with? Scenic crops like trees and buildings are easily painted on and sprout from the ground. You can alter the bank of the road around the corners, or lift, lower, widen, or narrow the track. You're probably going to want some sweet jump ramps in there, item pods that randomly distribute weapons, obstacles like exploding barrels, cute critters, or the deadly Devastator, which will crush anyone who doesn't get the drive-through timing just right. If you really want a power trip, you can even change the weather. When you're ready, you can hop right in and test it out, and make some changes as you like. We only spent a few minutes on this basic but functional track, but you'll probably end up spending much more time tweaking yours to perfection. If you're rushed or just feeling lazy, you can always auto-populate to finish up your track with props, weapons, and obstacles. The team at United Front Games spent a little more time building some other tracks for us that show the flexibility of track design, limited only by your imagination. Of course, it doesn't hurt to have some artistic sensibilities. When you're ready to be famous, you'll be able to share your creation with your buddies on the PlayStation Network. And we love the fact that your friends can download your track and remix it, hopefully making it even better. So there you go, that's how easy it is. Looks fun, right? Well, remember, it's still early since the game doesn't come out until sometime next year. But since it looks this great now, we can't wait to see all the weird, wild, and wonderful tracks the community comes up with.
As you sit back in a movie theater watching giant robots and space battles, have you ever wondered what really goes into creating those amazing visual effects? Well, we're here in the San Francisco's Presidio, home of Letterman Digital Arts Center and combined abode of ILM, LucasArts, and Lucasfilm to find out. Basically, we're in geek heaven. It's here where the gurus at Industrial Light and Magic work for months on creating scenes that get blown up anyway. We're meeting up with the visual effects supervisors of the blockbuster Transformers and Star Trek films to find out how they put the magic into some of your favorite movies.
I'm with Scott, visual effects supervisor on the Transformers movies. Scott, these robots, especially in Transformers 2, looked so complicated. I mean, what's the hardest part about working on this?
You know, they really are complicated. Just Optimus Prime has over 10,000 parts in him. And Devastator, he's made up of about 6 gigantic earth-moving devices. And each one of those is made up of more parts than Optimus. So you've got thousands and thousands of parts. And all that has to link together. It's all got to be painted. And it's just, I like to tell people, even though it's computer graphics, it's just like going out in your garage and producing these parts. It can take, just for one robot, a simple one, about 13 weeks, and then you've got to rig it and paint it. Then finally you can start thinking about putting it in the movie.
With so many visual effects, what do you think ILM does the best?
There are a lot of shops that do parts of what ILM does. You know, maybe a good compositing house, maybe a good animation house. I think ILM has always been, frankly, very good at large feature films where there are a lot of shots and a lot of work. Obviously, we have a lot of different disciplines to cover. So we do, I think, a lot of things well. Certain things that I think have been breakthrough lately have been, you know, the textures that we've talked about and like the Davy Jones looks of translucency. I think we've had some really great strides forward in character animation and looks. And then in the Transformers movies, those are all, we call them hard body surfaces. It's metal, and really making metal in computer graphics look like real car parts. And so where is ILM strongest? I think in always thinking about the look of an object and is it as real as possible? And that's what we work on.
Who was the hardest robot to work on for Transformers?
Devastator.
Why?
Why? I could show you why. Well, if you look at some of the shots, you'll see, again, they're complex. They have a lot of pieces. They take a long time to light. Just rendering, everybody wants to know, okay, what are some of the rules that you've broken in doing some of these shows? Devastator sometimes took, you know, 30 hours a frame to produce. It would be days before we'd see him again and finally see a rendered shot. We used 20 terabytes of disk space on the first Transformers, 20, right? We used over 150 on the second Transformers.
I am with Roger, who is the visual effects supervisor of Star Trek, which I loved.
I did too, yeah.
So much fun. Besides not pissing off Trekkers, what was your kind of guiding...
the guiding light?
Yeah, the guiding light through this project.
Well, it was, you know, obviously JJ and the writers. Actually, one of the writers, Bob Orsi, huge Trek guy. So he was our checks and balances. You know, so if we strayed too far off the Trek path, he would start talking about, you know, things that we should definitely avoid. But, you know, I did a lot of research myself. I'm old enough, believe it or not. I know you think I'm a really young guy, but I'm old enough to have seen the original series. I was going to card you, actually. Yeah, I've got my driving license on me. But the thing was that, you know, I did a lot of research myself, and it was difficult. It's difficult trying to do that thing where you're trying to reinvent something and make it cool or whatever, you know, however you describe it, and really interesting, exciting, but at the same time sort of fit it back into the timeline of the show. And that really is a challenge, because obviously if you just, for example, taken the Enterprise, in my opinion, and made it look like the original Enterprise, it would have looked really dated and kind of you know, so you have to give it that new look, you know, and you're treading a fine line, you know.
How do you think Star Trek kind of progressed visual effects technology?
Well, the really big challenges that we had on the show were the way that I mean, the destruction for one, and there's a lot of it, and trying to do that efficiently. We also did a whole bunch of stuff with the sort of virtual pyrotechnics, which is when the ships are fighting and they're firing missiles at each other and phasers and lasers and all those good things. When they actually hit the ship, it's actually done sort of procedurally, and what I mean by that is that the artist could fire something at a ship, and the ship would react in the right way. And there's a whole team of guys here, led by Joachim Arnesen, and they did a wonderful job of perfecting all that technology.
What's the biggest misconception you think people have about visual effects and making a movie like this?
I think people are amazed to find out that they take months and months of people's time. I mean, they really do. And you look at it on the screen and it's 5 seconds and it's gone. But, you know, in truth, you have a whole army of people here, you know, working extremely hard to make that stuff happen. I think people think, oh, well, if a computer's involved, there must be some fancy program that you can buy, you know, and it will build the Enterprise for you. But really, when you build something in a computer for a movie like Star Trek, it's almost as hard as just building it for real. You know what I mean? You actually have to think about every detail. And we have a terrific art department here and a model building crew, and Ron Woodall, who literally painted a lot of the ships. And you know, you are literally painting that ship. And it sounds crazy, but that's what you're really doing. And you have to think about every detail, every landing light, every window, every just as you would do if you were really building it for real.
Kirk Engineering, get us out of here, Scotty. You betcha, Oscar!
So the next time you enjoy ILM's explosive movie magic, just remember it took an army to make your jaw drop. Make sure you join us next month in Qore, where we check out ILM's motion capture studio and play with the same toys the pros do in film and video games.
My name is Desmond Miles, and I'm a prisoner of war. A war I never knew existed, waged by two groups I never thought were real: Templars and Assassins.
We thought the first Assassin's Creed was epic, but when Ubisoft invited us to play through a preview build of its sequel, we walked away stunned. Assassin's Creed 2 is a massive, sprawling, action-packed adventure with an expanded, open-ended mission structure that rivals that of Grand Theft Auto 4. Its storyline is gripping and complex. Its wild chases, towering climbs, and escapes are harrowing, the combat fluid and intuitive. Oh, and those assassin moves? Brutal as ever. And you're living this bella vita in a spectacular setting: the cities, towns, and countryside of 15th century Italy.
Insieme per la vittoria! Insieme!
For anyone who felt the original Assassin's Creed ending was a sucker punch of a cliffhanger, which would be, everyone, the good news is the story continues just moments after the original ends. The real protagonist Desmond Miles and geeky hottie Lucy Stillman finally escape from the grips of Abstergo Industries' Animus Lab and into a safe house where Desmond is introduced to the, you guessed it, Animus 2.0, an enhanced version of Abstergo's genetic memory syncing device. Desmond immediately jacks in to continue his journey, but this time through the memories of another ancestor, Ezio Auditore.
Buongiorno a voi, madre. Come state?
As soon as you take control of Ezio on the streets of Florence, the fun kicks into high gear. Some of your first jobs are 1. Smack down a rival family gang and loot their battered bodies. 2. Seek out a romantic rendezvous with a lovely lady friend. And 3. Run for your life from the PO'd father of said lady friend before accomplishing numero 4, meeting up with your father, who gives you 2 thumbs up for your bad boy behavior.
It reminds me of myself when I was your age.
Okay. So, you're about to see a spoiler that reveals a critical moment early in Assassin's Creed 2's story. Please choose whether you want to spoil yourself rotten or maintain your innocence. Sadly, the fun doesn't last. Following a number of simple delivery boy and beat-em-up missions that also act as a slick tutorial, things quickly turn from sweet to sour when your father and 2 brothers are captured and imprisoned. While attempting to prove your family's innocence, you're betrayed by the very man you trusted to help, Uberto Alberti, and must watch in horror as they are all hanged in public.
You and your collaborators are sentenced to death.
Ezio vows revenge, and with a little help from an enchanting brothel queen, your first real assassination mission is a success. Your next step? Escape to Villa Auditore in the Tuscan plains and embark on a colossal quest that spans Venice, Florence, Tuscany, Romagna, and more. As Ezio's dramatic story unfolds around you, what really hits you like a 15th century flogging is just how huge and alive the environments are, even more so than the original. A quick climb to the top of a tower reveals a breathtaking view of the vast city below, all of which can eventually be explored. But it's at ground level that Renaissance Italy really comes alive. Everything from the intricate streets and alleys, to the architecturally accurate buildings, to the gondolas floating by lend a stunning 15th century authenticity, right down to the last thread on the townsfolk's clothes. Ooh, sweet hat. And to top it off, a day and a night cycle is in full effect. These scenic cities are perfect playgrounds for Ezio's nimble climbing maneuvers. Whether you're tearing through the streets, leaping across rooftops, or scouring hidden corners in search of items and treasure, the organic controls and simple mechanics make navigating each locale as easy as it is fun. But we'll admit it, combat is really what we came for. When it comes to bringing the pain, Ezio has much more in his stash than just ninja-like reflexes. The weapons, supplies, and ability list has been generously expanded, upgrading your much-needed toolbox of assassin awesomeness. First up are the swords, hammers, and maces, which are all great for melee combat. For long-distance death affairs, throwing knives will do, but much later in the game you'll access a deadly pistol. And finally, Ezio's trusty hidden blade is back and better than ever. Just lock onto an enemy from an unseen location and dive in for the kill. Just like in the original Assassin's Creed, the counter and grab moves are key. Time them just right and you'll dispatch a group of guards without breaking a sweat. Time them wrong and you might need to drop a smoke bomb for a quick getaway. For those who prefer a more non-confrontational approach, try hiring some local talent, like thieves, fighters, or our personal favorite, the lovely courtesans, who will distract a group of guards and make it easy for Ezio to slip by unnoticed. Keeping a low profile is also an option. When your notoriety is too high, indicated by this symbol, you can tear down wanted posters or even pay off a herald to keep the guards at bay. Between all this fighting and evasive maneuvering are many side missions of the foot race and beat up the cheating husband variety. There are also plenty of hidden items to find and secrets to uncover. But unlike the original game, there's a good reason for them. The weapons and supplies aren't cheap and must be purchased from local merchants often. So get used to looting the city's many treasure chests to keep your cash topped up. Finally, adding to all this depth are many little details like an interactive database of characters and locations, a detailed map system that makes locating people, places, and things a cinch, and a series of hidden codex pages that, once deciphered by Leonardo da Vinci of course, leads to upgraded equipment.
I managed to decode that parchment of yours. It showed me exactly what to do.
Believe it or not, we've barely scratched the cobblestone surface here. Assassin's Creed 2 is a sequel that aims to outperform its predecessor in every way, and from what we've experienced, does exactly that, and more. We were amazed at how much there was to do and see, even in the early hours of our short play session. All we can do now is hope that Ezio's story will end as well as it started, that the truth will be revealed, and that this sequel won't leave us hanging on for dear life from the edge of a cliff. Guess we'll find out soon enough, or, in Ezio's language, molto presto.
Rated T for teen.
Whoa.